So, welcome to the new episode of Delta Doctrines. So, this episode, as the thumbnail suggests, is being requested by a few of my friends. So, I'm just covering this. Though I'm not finding any credible source or credible information regarding this in the open source intelligence network, and obviously I believe in those open source intelligence network. But I will still try to cover this topic because it's a very interesting topic, right, to cover. Now, if you remember, on 6th Jan 2026, U.S. Special Operation Delta Force actually stormed Venezuelan president's palace, and I mean, there were 20 special ops guy, and there was almost 100 Venezuelan palace guards, which are also commandos, right? They are also commandos. Uh, Now, what they were saying in some of the interviews, and that those interviews came via those social media posts, that while encountering US Delta Force, they were feeling dizzy, and blood were coming out from the nostrils, and they were blood vomiting. They were vomiting blood, and the skulls were ringing, and they were incapacitated, right? So that's what they told. And there can be two theories. I believe in one theory, and there can be another theory, which is a conspiracy theory. Let's tell my part of the story, which obviously um, um, I don't know. My personally opinion about reading about the open source intelligence, I couldn't find a credible information on that. Um, Though I will try to cover what can be the two possible scenarios, what they have used. Let's discuss on those, right? That's a very interesting topic. So generally, there are these are called non-lethal human-directed weapon. The way they have described that the weapon, what they're feeling, the symptoms, and the way they are trying to do uh, are a case or the case study where U.S. Delta Force has used non-lethal human-directed weapon, which is also called NLHDW. Now there are two types of NLHDW, right? One is the EMP and HPM. EMP, I will not cover these two. EMP or HPM is more, it's called electromagnetic pulse, and HPM is more around putting the microwave kind of thing into perspective. So these weapon, the EMP, HPM slash HPM weapons, are generally used for electronic warfare, and those are targeted towards the electronic radars or any electronic installation, not human. So human will not feel anything. There will be no symptoms. The said symptoms they have said, right? Any kind of symptoms that will be developed while US will use the EMP and HPM. So we'll just um, um, right now we'll just discount that EMP HPM. And the second type of weapon which generally uh, can be used, which is called directed acoustic weapon. So, and I also personally feel that whatever conspiracy theory or social media post that has been floating around actually addresses some of the symptoms while using directed acoustic weapon. Now, what is directed acoustic weapons? So, directed acoustic weapons are actually different type of weapons which uses sonar waves, either high frequency or low frequency. So when I say high frequency, so human audible range is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? This is the audible frequency. Now, when we send signal less than 20 hertz in very high energy, high decibel, right? Around, when I say saying high decibel, it's around 200 decibel. So if we send, say, 10 hertz of frequency, very low frequency, uh, in a amplitude of 200 decibel, so that will create some degree of incapacitation of human being. So they will kind of have certain degree of dizziness, vomiting sensation. Then he will feel that time is slowed down, and nausea effect, and there are a lot of some degree of bleeding also has been seen in testing, right? Human testing.
This is a test of the long-range acoustic device LRAD. One acoustic device is gaining ground daily by being law enforcement's go-to choice for crowd control scenarios and search and rescue missions. That device is LRAD. I'm Terry Shepard, and this is Digital Justice.
Right? Now, come let's see what are the different tools that we have. We see in the open intelligence domain, right? When I say open intelligence domain, some are actually commissioned and some are in the research phase, right? So one is long range acoustic devices, which is called LRAD. It is very long range acoustic device, highly directional sound winds, causes pain and disorientation at long range, generally used for crowd control and ship defense. And this is being commissioned by US Naval Force, US Navy, and is being generally used for anti-piracy operation in US naval ship, and also crowd dispersion, in some degree of crowd dispersion. Some of the force, some of the mariners in US use this one, right? So this is one type of weapon, right? And this is the second weapon, which is called high intensity focused ultrasound, HIFU, or the HIFU, or it is also called ultrasonic denial system, right? This tool is being right now developed in US military, lab tested, reportedly trialed by multiple militaries, primarily the US military. Frequency above human being hearing, 20,000 kilohertz with 180 to 250 decibel. Can vibrate tissue or inner ear. Indoors can make the room the person can be very uncomfortable in that scenario. Symptoms reported in trials: pressure in skulls, nausea and dizziness, loss of balance. Right. This is the second type of weapon. And there's a third type of weapon which is called infrasound, ultrasound, infrasound wave emitters. It's called low frequency acoustic. In development, but hard to control. Below 20 hertz, people do not hear it. Balance organs affect the balance organs, breathing rhythms, psychological state, which also create a documented effects in human: anxiety, fear, panic, vomiting, blood pressure changes. So this is another type of weapon which US is actually doing research. It's not commissioned, right? But this obviously needs larger power system, difficult to aim accurately outdoors. Now, when I have discussed these three weapons, I will give you my opinion if this thing is correct. There can be two options, right? The first option is a long range acoustic device in LRAD. Already this is being commissioned by US. Generally, I have seen that US doesn't use any weapon which is not commissioned by their special Congress approval. They have to take special Congress approval for any kind of military weapon usage for the military, right? Though it's a very confidential, but they generally do that. But if that is not there, right? So LRAD is actually operational in US military. And what I feel, this can be my assumption, or my option one. This has actually happened. Uh, so their Chinook helicopter or Apache helicopter, which actually went, mostly the Chinook helicopter, the upgraded helicopter, right, which can carry Hellfire missile, right? So this went with that pod, right? This for LRAD, you require a significant amount of large. It's a very large device. It's not a small device that one person can carry or a mariner can carry. So those special Delta Force operative can carry, right? It is a very significantly large device, which generally kept below the helicopter belly, right? Some huge pods. So this is the option one. I felt it might have happened. So whenever they are trying to land, before landing in that palace, right? Once they have actually deactivated all the electronic warfare radars and all those things, they have actually uh, they have actually beamed or directed those LRD beams into the palace, right? Significantly, say for example, 1 minute time, they actually hovered around above the palace, and actually they have uh, directed the entire beam to the palace. Now, of a 60 seconds of uh, beam that came down to those down to the palace, maybe the efficiency I don't know, because some will reflect from by so that's I don't know, but the efficiency, but that might have incapacitated those uh, palace guards, right? And they were actually nauseating, or they were actually hallucinating. That okay, someone saying in that interview that I see 3,000 rounds of fire being fired by one delta US delta force. That's not possible. One person firing 3,000 rounds of fire, it's absolutely not possible, right? So that proves that they were actually hallucinating, and hallucination will come if somebody for last 60 seconds has been under the attack of those LRAD directional beams, right? That actually created those hallucination effect and bleeding effect from the nostrils, and also vomiting blood and all those things because of that. And when they landed, after 1 minute of intense beaming of those LRD directional beam, the Delta Force landed on the palace. They went, and the guards were already incapacitated, right? And they were firing just like any year. They are firing, and since during that process, the palace guards were actually in a hallucinating state, and the time was actually lasting for them, right? Time is very slow for them, and that's how they in their brain they are kind of estimating, okay, 3,000 rounds of fire was getting fired, right? Actually, it was not like that. It can be 10 rounds of fire or 20 rounds of fire, and since the time was such a has been large for them because they were hallucinating, they felt that it is almost 3,000. So that's my option number one. Now, option number two, I guess it can be HIFU, intensity focus ultrasound, which generally can be carried by a Delta Force person, which is a small device, and it is a directed device which can cause the same symptoms. The only problem with that is that this is not being commissioned. Still, they are doing some testing. They have done some testing as per my open source intelligence. So, HIFU is an option, but I will put it option number two because generally US Delta Force doesn't use any kind of weapon which is not being commissioned by that special Congress team or Congress panel, right? That's the same thing. I'm just carrying those devices, putting them along with their gun, and just pointing to the. But I don't think so. There's an option number two. I feel the option number one is more addressed to the conspiracy theory. I felt, and obviously the other weapon, the infrasound wave emitters, is not possible because this is probably is in a very dangerous. This is not being researched across the human all type of scenarios and all those things. I don't think the US will implement this. I think so. Option number one is LRAD. They have actually modified the Chinook to do that, and the option number two is HIFU, which I guess the probability is quite low. These are the two options. Thanks for watching. Good night.